Hi, this is Cannondorf. Welcome to my tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to put a low poly texture onto a model for Super Smash Bros. Melee. Here we have Minecraft Fox, an amazing skin done by Moth. It's obviously a model import. So as you can see here, you'll notice Fox has no shadow, and that's because he doesn't have a low poly texture assigned to his model. When he goes off the screen like that, you can see there is nothing in that little circle. And again, that is because he does not have a low poly model. So today we're going to go ahead and show you how to fix that. Step one of creating a low poly model is, of course, having all of the programs you're going to need. For doing this, we'll need Dat Texture Wizard, HSDraw, Slippy, and any version of Blender 3.4 or higher. I know 3.5 did just come out. You can use Max Tool for things like this, but for this tutorial we're just going to be using these four programs. The first thing we're going to need to do here is use Dat Texture Wizard to get the vanilla.dat for the character that we want to create the low poly for. Normally you'd be doing this with one of your own models. Today I'm going to be showing you how to add it to someone else's model. So let's go ahead and get that low poly. We are going to open our vanilla ISO. Normally I just use the Acania's ISO, and actually I will be using the Acania ISO as well today. I always recommend using the Acania ISO for anything related to modding, because Acania is just better for modding. So we're going to open up our ISO. We're going to go to characters. For Fox here, we're going to get his lavender costume because that's the costume that Minecraft Fox is over, and we're going to export him. I'm going to save this as vanilla because I will have a few of these. Okay, so now you can see I now have that .dat file. Now that I have that .dat file, I'm going to go ahead and open the Blender project that I've been working on. So as you can see here, I took the model that, again, Moth created. I did not make this. And I got it into Blender. I used Bizarone's import guide. He shows you how you can take the SMD as well as the .dae to create a textured mesh that is bound to a skeleton in Blender. So you can't just use the SMD and you can't just use the DAE, you do have to use them both if you do want to get a textured mesh into Blender out of just a .dat file. So right now, if I exported this to HSDraw, there would not be any kind of low poly mesh associated with him, because as you can see, he is just one object. There's no low poly mesh here. So what I'm going to do is actually double him. Fox here is very easy to do this with because he is just one object. However, if you do have more than one object, you can just click all of them in the hierarchy and then double them. In order to do that, I'm going to press Shift D. It's going to create a duplicate. Now, you do want this duplicate to be in the exact same spot, so all you have to do is press Escape. And now, as you can see, I have two versions of the same thing. Now for Minecraft Fox, he's low poly enough, as you can see in edit mode here, that he doesn't really need a low poly model. We could just use the model he already has, and in fact that is what we're going to do. So we're just going to duplicate his base model, and it will become both our main model and our low poly model. However, if you do want to learn how to make a low poly model the quick, dirty, and easy way, this is how you do it. You just take your entire mesh and you duplicate it like we just did. Then you would hide your original mesh, showing just your brand new duplicated one. I always name every part of the duplicated mesh A1, then A2, A3, A4. That just lets you know which ones are your low poly ones. It keeps them separate and it keeps them listed. You do want them all bunched up together in the hierarchy. It does just make things a little bit easier later on. So what you're going to do to create a quick dirty low poly mesh is you press tab, or you get to edit mode. You press A to select everything, and then you go to mesh, and then from mesh you hit clean up, decimate geometry. Now what this is going to do for higher poly models is you can reduce the number of uh, polygons that are available. So for higher poly models, you can actually reduce them quite a bit. They do lose some quality, but they're still recognizable. This one is so low poly that reducing it like this will not be beneficial to us. But as you can see, that is a very quick, dirty, and easy way to create a low poly texture without having to do very much work. So this is 50% of the polygons of original Fox. And this would probably still work. However, I'm not going to do it like this. I am just going to import the full model because he's already a low poly model. So it's going to Control Z that decimate, even though we didn't do anything. So now I do have the two meshes here. I'm going to go ahead and export it to HS Draw. And in order to do this, I got my settings from Shiggle's guide as well as Barrows in the MEX Discord. He helped us out with learning how to export these properly. You're going to want to export them as an FBX file. And importantly, you want to create a preset for melee. I specifically don't bake the animations in, so I have melee no bake. But what you do, set everything to what I have here, and I'll show you what that is, and then press the plus button and create a preset for melee. This is going to save you a lot of time in the future. So it needs to be armature, mesh, nothing else here. Scale needs to be 0.01, that's very important. Apply scaling, all local, forward, -Z forward, Y up, all of these checked. Geometry, have these settings. Armature, have these settings, and then bake animation is off. So set all of that and then press this plus button in order to create a melee preset. So I'm going to create my mcfox.fbx. Okay, that has been exported. So we're going to open up HS Draw. And we are going to open that vanilla Fox that we had earlier. Double click right here to open up Fox himself. And as you can see, it's vanilla Fox. If we go to the objects, you can see he has 76 different DATs or data files here. You need to know this. This is why we get the original here, so that we can know how many objects there are on the original one, because we will have to replicate that. So we're actually going to keep this one open, and we are going to open another instance of that, another instance of HS Draw, and we're going to open up the exact same file, and we're going to add our low poly. Well, first we're going to add our model, and then we're going to add our low poly model. So first, we're going to import that FBX that we saved here. And a lot of people will mess with these. I tend to just mess with them in Blender, so he should import correctly. And if you see this, always say yes, because you do need to keep the same skeletal structure for online play. So as you can see, we have Fox here, and he has 2 objects with 2 textures. These are duplicates of each other, but that's a good thing. So now the fun part, we need to get his low poly texture, because right now if we put him in, he would not have a low poly texture because he just has, these are just normal textures. So in order to do that, what we're going to need is the animation data for all foxes, or the basically the shared data file for all foxes. In order to get that, oh, well, actually, I apologize. Before we do that, let's add the dummy texture so I don't forget. So Fox here has 76. We do need this to match. And always make sure check off add dummy texture and make that true. So I messed up. He only has 75. He needs 76. Because I can't do math. All right. And 0 does count before 1. All right, so we have 76, 76. That's all lined up. It's always good to trim data. It doesn't always trim anything, but it cleans up your model. So next up, we need to get that animation information, that shared information. So we're going to go back to Dat Texture Wizard. We're going to open Recent. And we're going to go back to Characters, go back to Fox. And I apologize, it's not the animation data, it's the NTSC data and shared textures. So this is what we need. Gonna export that here, save that. Okay. So now we're gonna open that up in this one. And now we can see Fox. So we're going to open this hierarchy here, go to the model lookup table. We're going to look costume visibility lookups, array 0, go to his low poly mesh here, array 0 again, lookup entries, keep going, and then right here, click on this. So it says byte 36. You can see his low poly mesh starts at byte 36, and it looks like it goes until, let's see, is there any skips? Sometimes there's skips. Looks like it goes until 67. So if you are going to make a low poly mesh that's not as simple as this one, it needs to fit within the bytes 36 and 67. So there needs to be, enough objects that fit between 36 and 67. It needs to be a much smaller object count. Well, it's not that much smaller, but it needs to be a smaller object count than whatever your total object count is in general, because again, it does have to fit within these parameters. So the starting byte is 36. That's pretty important. So what we're going to do is go to the one that we want to be a low poly texture. I'm just going to say this is going to be our low poly. Nope, not that. Up here at the top. This is going to be our low poly, and we need to move this to 36. So I'm just going to click this 35 times. All right, so now that this is on 36, we're almost done here. We just save that we've done here, and we're going to name this Minecraft Fox Low Poly. Kind of a mouthful, but whatever. Okay. Open up Dat Texture Wizard again. And we're going to open our Acania build, or again, you can do this with a vanilla ISO. I just prefer to use the Acania build for all my modding because it's better. Go back to characters, go back to Fox, and we're going to go to Fox's lavender costume. Oop, don't do that. Don't open it. We're just going to import it, and we're going to import that low poly .dat. Well, this has the high poly and the low poly, so we're just going to bring that in here. File, save, or just press Control S, and we'll see if it works. Okay, to test this, all we have to do is open that ISO that we added it to with that texture wizard, and we're going to hope this works. All right, as you can see, Fox now has a low poly model because you can see his shadow. And you can see when he's off the screen, he is showing up in that little circle. So we did it. That's all you have to do. Now he's a low poly model. Very easy to do this. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I might make more tutorials in the future. Mostly I'm just making this so I don't forget how to do it when I don't do it for a few months. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.